Well, hey there, guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, it is part 4 and the finale of our marionette build. Well, when we ended up on part 3, as I said at the end of last week's show, I was kind of hoping to wind it up then, but I realized there was so much more to do. And that's what we're going to do on today's show. It's not so much today about the construction of the marionette, but more about the way that I'm going to decorate this marionette to give it a little extra character. So, without further ado, let's get into the decorating of the marionette. Well, I brought the marionette here in the house. It's just a little easier for me to work with. Now, I wasn't really planning on filming this, so I've already started doing some things. And the first thing I've done is just out of some wire, I've made this guy some glasses. So before I carry on, I want to take this apart. There are certain things we need to do. So I'm going to take the entire marionette apart, and we're going to be concentrating right now on the legs, the feet, and the head. Well, for his legs, I want him to look like he has pants on, but I don't want to actually use fabric for the pants due to the fact that in this case, I think it's going to impede his leg movements. So I just have some acrylic paint here, and we're going to paint his legs, both his calves and his thighs and his whole pelvis area with this color of blue. And this will hopefully give the illusion or the look that he has pants on. And of course, depending on how much the paint is going to soak in here, it may require several coats to get good coverage. Okay, and that's all the pieces of our legs and our pelvis area painted. Chances are they're going to need some touch-up. Chances are they're going to need possibly a third coat in some areas, and as well in our dados where our joint won't cover areas, we may need to paint a little more. I didn't want to put too much paint in those in case it hindered the movement, and as well, you know, who knows, through use, it could just rub it off if there's too much in there. So we're gonna keep working on those, add extra coats if need be, but we now want to do the shoes. And guys, for this, I'm gonna paint them white in this case, and you can put as much or as little embellishment on these as you want. I'm gonna play it by ear, and I'll show you what I decided on when I get it done. Well, while we're waiting for our shoes to dry, we're gonna work on the eyes, seeing we have the white paint out anyway. Guys, I would suggest drawing the eyes on here first to get the shape. Once you're happy with the shape, then you can paint them and you won't be trying to correct it by removing paint or that sort of thing. So we're going to get these eyes painted. We're going to do the whites first, several coats, and then we can add the color. And last, of course, will be the pupils to end up with the final color. Now, guys, you're not looking here to get a ton of detail. This is almost like theater makeup kind of thing. So you want the details kind of thing to be visible from a distance. So if your eyes are exaggerated in their size or exaggerated in their color, that's just fine. That's the kind of effect that you want, and that's what you're aiming for. Well, we're going to try something a little bit different now, and I want to add his eyebrows. I don't want everything to be in paint. I want to kind of mix it up a little bit. So I'm going to use my wood burner, and we're going to wood burn in some eyebrows on our character. Okay, and we also want some lines here in his face just to accentuate some of his features. And again, we're going to wood burn that as well. So the next thing I want to do now that I've given him a little bit of feature here is we're going to burn in his ears. I've already sketched them out here. You can see the holes where his glasses go into his head here. So we're going to wood burn those ears in place, and hopefully when we get that done, he'll really start to get a little bit of character to him. And now the last will be his hair on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wood burn the shorter parts of his hair right here. I'm just going to mark this where I want it. And what we're going to do is the rest of it, we're going to actually use teddy bear fur. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere this to our head, and we will trim it up as best we can to try to make it look like hair. Now, we're not looking for an exact duplicate here or an exact replica of anybody in particular, but we are hoping to get kind of a reasonable image of the character that I have in mind. And the hair is just being held in place by some strong double-sided tape. All right, so this is where we're at right now with our head. I don't know. Look like anybody you know? Anyway, I'm going to do a little more to this, play around with it, and I guess from there, well, we can finish off the shoes at this point, I think. Well, with the shoes, what I've done is I've drilled 8 holes. I think they're 1/8 of an inch in diameter. And what I'm going to do is I have some crochet cotton here, black crochet cotton. I'm basically going to lace our running shoes and give them black laces. I also have some rubber here. I noticed when goofing around with this that the soles were slipping on the surface that I was using the Marionette on. So I'm going to cut some rubber soles, and I'm going to double side tape them to the bottom of each shoe. I have also carved out a recess where these holes are, and that will allow the crochet cotton to sit flush in here, or recessed, I should say, into the bottom of the foot, and then the soles of the shoes will be able to sit properly onto the bottom. So I'm going to get all that done, and I'll show you what they look like when we get that finished. And there we go. There is our little running shoe for our Marionette. Complete with rubber soles. Now I've got to trim this rubber up around these edges here just a little bit, but all in all, I think that that turned out pretty good. And I did add a little drop of CA glue here to this center knot, as well as to the ends of the crochet cotton, just to keep it from fraying. So I'm going to get my other shoe finished up here, and then we can move on. Okay, well, at this point, what we're going to do is I'm going to reassemble his lower body here. I'm going to put the pins in, those coat hanger pins. I'm actually going to glue them in place. You want to be careful that you don't seal up the joint, that you don't make the joint unusable in the knees or in the hips or in the ankles. And once I get that done, I'm going to go through and see where there's areas of the pants that need to be touched up, things that didn't get coated before, kind of like here inside this knee joint. But we're going to get our pins all glued in, get our lower body completely assembled, and then we can turn our attention to our upper body. Well, I finished touching up all the paint on his legs. I might need to add just a little more at some point. But I asked my wife if she could come up with a t-shirt for this guy. So she actually took one of my old t-shirts and managed to put it through her sewing machine and make this small black t-shirt here. I think it looks great. We just need to, she needs to get some holes here in the shoulders for our shoulder eye bolts so that our Marionette strings can come up through the shirt. But that's something that can be done after. So there we go. We now have a shirt on this Marionette. Okay, so my wife has fixed the shirt to allow the eye bolts to come through the shoulders, and that will give us the ability to attach our strings to the controls. for the shoulder mounts. This here, this is just sat in the loop, just something for me to hang it from while I was working on parts. We also have, I don't know if I mentioned it, but we also have this tattoo here on the right bicep. I use my laser engraver to place that in there, but if you don't have a laser engraver, I mean, you can do it with a wood burner. It's just getting a representation of the character. It's not necessarily getting an exact duplicate. So what I want to do now is I want to give this guy some earrings because the person he's modeled after, of course, has 2 in his left ear and 1 in his right. So because he doesn't really have ears, they're just wood burned in, I'm not going to put hoops in the ears, but I'm going to put studs. So we're just going to mark where I want these studs, 1 here and 1 here. Just like that. And I'm going to use a jeweler's drill, and we're going to drill these 2 holes. And there's our second. And what we're going to use to represent the studs or the earrings are some brass eustachian pins. So we're just going to place one of those in one of the holes, and we'll tap it in. All right, there's one. Place our second one in our second hole. All right, just like that. And then we'll put our single one on the other side. Okay, so the next thing is we have this shop apron. Now, my wife has made this out of fake leather. She's sewn the pockets on, and the straps will mount it to the Marionette. But anyone who's watched my show for any length of time knows that on my shop apron, it was a Father's Day gift, and my daughters both placed their handprints on it, as well as my granddaughter placed her handprint on it using some paint and some fabric medium to keep it permanent. So what I've done is I've used my laser engraver and some rubber stamp material, and I have made some hand stamps, both a larger left and a right, and then a smaller left and a right. And what I'm going to do is, using some paint, I'm going to use these rubber stamps that I've made, and I'm going to stamp the handprints on this apron the exact same way that my shop apron is done. Now guys, I'm not showing you how to do rubber stamps. I've done a show on that before. I'll post a link to it down below if somebody's interested and wants to make rubber stamps for their own. I do have a show and a tutorial on how to do this. So I'm going to apply the paint, and let's get this shop apron decorated up. So I'm just going to test this on some scrap. I have a little bit of yellow paint here, and I'm going to paint our stamp just like this. And then quickly, before the paint has a chance to dry, I'm just going to stamp it here on this piece of scrap. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think the yellow could be a little more pronounced, so I think the paint is a little bit watery. I'm going to have to mix it up a little bit better, but I think that'll work. So I'm going to do the stamping here and duplicate on the apron what it is that my daughters did. So there we go. We'll just apply the yellow paint. Well, I think I'm going to do another test because I'm not 100% sure that I like what's happened here with this one. Okay, that turned out a little better. You know what, I'm going to let this dry and see how it dries on this fake leather, and then we'll go from there. If it doesn't dry well on here, then I'm not going to bother using it on the stamp, and we'll have to try something different. Okay, so I'm not pleased with those results at all. As the acrylic paint dries, it just disappears on the apron. So none of the details of the handprints are showing at all. So what I'm gonna do is I have some trim-clad rust paint. I'm going to paint some onto like a little wooden palette here, kind of using it like an ink stamp, and we're going to dip it in the trim clad paint, and we're going to apply that to our test piece and see how we like that. Now, using an oil-based paint like that is going to seriously increase the drying time, but just like with everything else here on the show, we're not in a hurry. So I'm not worried about that as long as we get the results that I'm after. Okay, and that seemed to provide a better result there. Right off the bat, we can see it already looks better. So I think I'm going to go with the oil-based paint, and we'll stamp all of these onto the apron and go from there, I guess. Okay, and we'll just add the white handprints of my granddaughter here. Spread a little bit of white paint onto our palette, and we'll just dip our rubber stamp in. We'll give it a little stamp here. There's actually 3 of her handprints. She was quite young at the time. Maybe that's all they could get her to cooperate for. But we'll add the 3rd one. Okay, that one smudged a little bit on me, but that's okay because the originals are actually smudged. And there we go, and there are the handprints on the shop apron. And while it's not exactly like mine, it does give the image or give the representation of my apron. So we'll put that aside and let that dry overnight. Now I just want to turn my attention to our Marionette here. I really think I need to seal in this acrylic paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some spray lacquer, and I'm just going to give this a light coating to seal in the wood burnings. We're also going to seal in the paint for his eyes, and of course the paint on his legs, as well as the engraving for the tattoo. I'm going to engrave my brand here on his back. That'll be covered up by his shirt afterwards. But we're going to get this all sealed up, and then at that point, I think we can turn to actually getting him strung up for his final stringing. So the sealer spray is done, the lacquer, and it's all dried. That'll go a long way to protecting the actual paint. This acrylic paint really is kind of light duty. It's very easy to damage it. So we have his apron, we have his outfit. He's pretty much done, and we have to restring him. However, truth be told, I'm just not happy with that inner strings of the paracord. So I have gone and ordered some, and I did some research, and this comes kind of recommended, and it's like a deep sea braided fishing line. So I've ordered a spool of that, and we're going to get the Marionette strung back up using this fishing line instead of using the guts of the paracord. And when I get that done, I'll show you what it is that we're looking at. And there you have it, a Marionette. Guys, this project was a load of fun and a huge learning curve. I mean, I've never done anything like this. The only reference I had was that book I referenced to you guys early on in the series, and I kind of had to make it up as I go along. A huge learning curve, but a huge load of fun. Honestly, the entire process from the beginning to the end was kind of neat to see how it all came together, and I really enjoyed from the beginning to the end. Now, truth be told, I think these strings here instead of those white ones work a lot better, but honestly, I am shocked at how much practice and how much effort and skill it takes to work one of these things. this is not even close to the way it could be done. And there are people out there that do this professionally, and honest to goodness, I have a whole new respect for them because they are artists, honest artists. I'm just a hack playing with a wooden puppet at this point. Either way, guys, it's a great project, and I hope you're going to try it for yourself. Guys, I really want to thank you for tuning in this week. If you haven't already, if you found anything about today's show likable, enjoyable, entertaining, informative, you know what? Why not like and subscribe to the channel? We have an amazing audience base, and I'm hoping that you're going to consider becoming a part of that. Guys, I want to thank you so much again for tuning in. I hope you're going to give this one a try for yourself. I hope you're going to look into some marionettes and maybe have a little bit of fun with it. And more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.